Welcome to Sam Vickers' Golf Performance educational series on long-term athlete development and the rationale for strength conditioning. The next generation of golfers. Many of the world's highest paid athletes come from golf, demonstrating the large sums of money that are involved in the modern game. With golf now being a truly global game and sponsors battling it out to have the next potential superstar associated with them, there's little wonder so many children and parents are investing so much of their time to try and forge a career playing. So what is the long-term athlete development model? The model was created to help kids become all-round athletes and increase their general health and well-being through a systematic approach to physical education throughout their developmental years. However, as sports have pushed to become more and more elite, many systems start to train juniors like mini professional athletes within their respective sports. As a result, many important physical qualities can become underdeveloped while others become one-dimensional in their movement and play. The LTAD model helps to increase motor skill development and multi-sport sampling through increasing physical, mental and psychosocial well-being that sets a child up for the rest of their lives rather than just during the time they are within a certain system. We all likely have an example of a child who excelled at a sport, had an abundance of natural talent and was destined for long-term success. Yet once they reached their adolescent years, there was a notable downturn in technique, form and mentality, resulting in a loss of confidence and fun for the sport. The chances are that very same individual dropped out from participating in the game altogether by their late teens or early adulthood. So why the need for LTAD approach is more important than ever before. In golf, the model is all too often overlooked, with many coaches, parents and club systems applying the route of early specialisation with the thought process that the sooner they learn their respective golf skills through lots of practice and play, the better they will be compared to their counterparts by the time they are ready to step up to the top end. The fundamental thinking is flawed for two significant reasons. Number one, children need to be exposed to a range of stimulus, for example, multi-sports, varied movements and environments in order to mature both physically and mentally. Number two, the LTAD approach is not designed for the purpose of creating elite athletes. It's rather a pathway for all children, irrespective of natural talent, to lead a healthier, fitter and more fulfilled lifestyle. This argument is perhaps none more so important than ever with the epidemic of obesity in society and the decrease of physical education within primary education. With golf being a sport that is less physically demanding than many other mainstream sports like football, netball and tennis, for example, the need to incorporate LTAD is even more essential. So the question is often, surely golf provides lots of physical development? Well, golf offers many great physical and mental qualities, such as rotational force that can be transferred to and from sporting movements, such as throwing a tennis ball or javelin, or with hitting actions such as tennis and squash. Additionally, it teaches perseverance due to the difficulties experienced within the complex and ever-evolving nature of the golf swing, as well as decision-making needed on every shot that is made highly challenging due to the numerous variables a golfer has to process on the course. However, due to the repetitive nature of the golf swing, whereby a golfer can spend hours hitting balls just to improve minor movements in technique, this creates a one-sided or asymmetrical pattern that can cause imbalances within athletic movement and dynamic posture. So an example, imagine a child who by the age of 12 has hit over 50,000 golf balls and spent many hours in golf posture. That's likely to result in changes in posture that relate to the golf swing. This child will develop imbalances between the left and right side, and if not exposed enough to other sports, can develop a body that is limited in basic movement patterns. Also, they have not had to dodge an opponent, jump for a ball, or sprint away from an opposing player. They have not developed high levels of fundamental movement skills such as agility, speed, jumping, and landing mechanics that are required for a well-balanced athlete. Furthermore, posture imbalances can cause weaknesses in musculature that are required for a stable, strong, and powerful swing, which in turn can often result in lower back injuries, the most commonly injured site for a golfer. So it leads to the question of, should children strength train? A key area of the long-term athlete development model is strength training, which has been a complex topic over the years. Even with the scientific evidence and application from many of the world's leading physical coaches across all sports, youth resistance-based training or strength training holds a belief as being dangerous, causing injury and stunting growth. However, strength training that is performed with external resistance in the form of weights such as resistance bands, kettlebells, dumbbells, and or barbells has scientifically been shown through numerous studies that there are no negative impacts on skeletal growth and maturation. In fact, the research supports the use of strength training for kids, providing it's programmed appropriately and coached in a progressive manner with the application of good technique, all areas that any good programming and coaching should apply across all ages or experience. The research has identified that resistance training can considerably enhance muscular strength, muscular endurance, power production, change of direction speed, agility, balance, stability, coordination, and speed of movement in youth athletes. Notably, strength training is now common practice amongst many strength conditioning coaches who work with children and adolescents. So what are the health benefits? Firstly, injury reduction risk. Although injury can never be prevented due to the magnitude of risks in all sports, even golf included, it can be significantly reduced through the implementation of an all-round program which focuses on increasing muscle strength, developing movement mechanics, often referred to as movement quality, and enhancing functional ability, movement through in different direction, often something the sport of golf does not provide alone, and in turn just focusing on one other sport can often be limiting. So that multivariate approach is often the most effective for that long-term athlete development. Even if strength training cannot prevent your child being hit by fellow playing partners, while drive, or stop them from falling down a hidden hole in the rough, it can strengthen their muscles and connective tissues, which protects and makes young athletes become adept in sustaining higher external forces, which therefore makes them less prone to soft tissue injuries, which is often experienced in golf due to the swing's repetitive nature and practice habits. So, the example of you'll never prevent injury through freak accidents that can even happen on the golf, but you can significantly reduce the chances with soft tissue and movement quality. In addition, if a strengthening program is implemented in younger age groups before neuromuscular deficits and biomechanical changes, which are often seen during growth spurts when juniors start to struggle to coordinate their movement and limbs due to their brain needing time to adapt to their new body size, the effectiveness can be twofold. So with a rapid increase in physical development, young athletes are at higher risk of sustaining injuries regardless of the sport or level they participate in. With this in mind, it has been identified that strength training involves a much lower risk of injury than the actual sport itself, meaning the fear of resistance or strength training, mostly from parents and coaches, should be removed and in turn, involvement embraced. So sporting context with golf is understanding the biomechanics of movements can be complex, but it is important to imagine what happens when playing sport. On a daily basis, a child will sprint, change direction, jump as high as they can, land in a variety of positions, often on different surfaces, and receive contact from another child with adequate force, for example, being ran into in the playground. Naturally, as outlined at the beginning of this, the opportunity for children and adolescents to participate in general play is significantly reduced more than ever before. So even though we'd like to think they're experiencing these on a daily basis, it's probably much more reduced and minimal compared to what it has been in previous generations. So when all these movements happen, movements that the human body is designed to perform, forces are placed on the joints in excess of 6 times their body weight. If we take a child that weighs 40 kilograms, for example, and they jump in the air to catch a ball, on landing, the impact of the ground could be placing over 240 kilograms of force through their ankles, knees, and hip joints. So think about how much 240 kilograms is and realise very few adults can lift this amount, let alone a child. Further kind of justifying how strength training, resistance training done effectively cannot be dangerous compared to general sport participation. So now think what keeps joints stable. Tendons, ligaments and muscles all working in a synchronized manner to be able to absorb the impact, maintain a good body position that prevents them from crumbling to the floor while keeping them stable and able to land and sprint off in a different direction. Without strength of the said structures, a child is increasingly likely to get injured and develop poor movement patterns as a result of compensations due to physical weakness. Putting that into words, when you break down any simple movement on the eye, you realise how amazing the human body is, but also how complex all movements can be, and why the need for good physical, athletic elements is vital. So hence why we see so many golfers who have played golf from a young age with poor movements in their swing and who develop lower back pain. We see golfers who start the game during their adolescent years who come from a multi-sport background and can swing with much greater speed and control than others, for example, Bubba Watson. So developing a perfect golf swing, and in inverted commas, at a young age doesn't necessarily mean that's beneficial to that individual long term, and can put more stress on the body than if they come from that multi-sport background, and can lead to further injury and burnout in a much shorter space of time. On top of this, there's obviously additional health benefits, not just what we've mentioned with the sport. So as mentioned previously, children participate in physical education and a variety of sports less than ever before, increasing the risk of many health issues and injuries. However, participating in resistance training can provide many additional positives that research has shown in abundance. So you can increase cardiovascular risk profile. So that's resistance training, again, shows decreased risk of heart disease. By not doing it, you're increasing that risk. Reducing body fat, so decreasing the risk of obesity. As mentioned previously, the epidemic of obesity, especially in children, is higher than ever before since the pandemic of COVID-19. Facilitate weight control, so building healthy lifestyle habits for life. Again, developing that at a younger age will only help with long-term lifestyle. Improve insulin sensitivity, so aid in better nutritional habits, further linking to obesity. Key one is strengthening bone mineral density, so reducing injury risk long term, and obviously will not stunt growth, evidence that only aids growth. And enhancing psychosocial well-being, so providing pathways to improve mental health, again, something that is significantly probably more important than ever. And then there's the question of, I thought strength training for kids stunts their growth. Now, this is a myth, unsupported evidence in the 70s and 80s that strength training does stunt growth. And there's still many circles that may promote this. This was arguably created around the time when commercial gyms became popular, even from an insurance point of view, or simply from the fact gyms didn't want teenagers, younger individuals, and below gathering in their spaces to remove the demand for under 16 lifting weights. So most commercial gyms will not allow under 16s to use majority of the equipment. And then on top of that, there are many individuals, whether that's in sports education or in coaching, who hold the belief that strength training stunts growth, but the research, as mentioned previously, significantly shows that's not the case. It's also worth noting that in the 70s and 80s, this was an era when physical education in schools was much more regular and robust than it is in present times, and has since created a barrier for much needed physical development in juniors. So what I mean by that, if you are a parent or you're looking at this as a younger individual, physical education was commonly known in the 70s, 80s, even 90s. Looked very different, probably naturally more dangerous, more intense, and more regular. But obviously, with the changes in health and safety, with the changes in different specialists in coaching, in teaching, and timetables and curriculum, the opportunity to experience that style of physical education is extremely rare, and yet there is a higher demand for it than ever before. So further, what does the research say? The scientific literature overwhelmingly supports the use of resistance training and has identified it as being a vital strategy for increasing bone health during growing years and skeletal health during childhood, which can reduce the chances of fractures in later life. Furthermore, participating in regular strength training has been shown to improve both bone mineral density and geometry, so thicker and bigger bones equals stronger. We all know that can only be a good thing. The stress placed on evolving growth plates from resistance training looks to be highly advantageous to bone formation and growth that are sustained into adulthood. So the complete opposite of what is the myth kind of suggests. And if we go back to the sporting context used earlier, with the forces placed on the body during all sports, resistance training could be a defining factor on how much a child excels in long-term participation of any given sport. The fear created around juniors lifting weights in an area I have personally experienced firsthand in multiple sports from both parents and coaches involved in that sport. It takes time and education to change minds. Changing parents and technical coaches' views, those who perhaps have the largest input on a child's participation in strength training, resistance-based training, is absolutely fundamental to strength training becoming the norm within younger athletes, and it's become more essential than ever, as repeatedly stated. In many schools, especially in different parts of the world, strength training from as young as 10, sometimes even younger if it's done appropriately, is becoming the norm and common. And these individuals are transitioning into their teenage years and adulthood with a common and experienced habit of strength training with all the health benefits that it possesses. Utilizing the junior development model programs on the app will help start the process to developing long-term athlete development and building up general habits and understanding for both parents, coaches, and the children themselves. Thank you for listening.